Today, I came by metro, right? So and people were actually I was just listening. I keep listening to the conversation of young adults, right? So all they speak about is, hey, ChatGPT told me this, right? So, and it's amazing how it has gotten into daily lives of human beings, right?
Is always when people see the evolution of the AI, the key point discussed is always about the reinforcement, right? Reinforcement learning is ultimately shaping the complete ecosystem of AI, right? So from that angle, how has reinforcement learning shaping the real world application into the enterprise? From your angle, what exactly you can see on that?
It's an interesting point because till the transformer systems or BERT or GPT came into picture, or even the any generative AI solutions came into picture, right? Or models coming into picture, AI was limited to the enterprises. Because see, there is a, whether we like it or not, hallucination is still a problem.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you don't know, because I keep the analogy of you're talking to a teenager, right? So they will throw a lot of information at you, right, which you probably don't know, but they will sneak in that 5% hallucinated content.
Correct.
Right? And you have to identify what that 5% is in the.
Hi everyone, welcome to the another episode of Voice of Visionary. Today we have a very special guest, a guest who spent decades of a time building an enterprise product. Now he's on a mission to build AI-driven enterprise product using AI and GenAI. Also, going into the episode, we're going to deep dive into real-world use cases, how the product works, how the product evolve, and now let me introduce Vishwanath Belur. He is a senior director of a product management at Informatica. He is now leading the Claire AI and generative AI initiative into the Informatica. Welcome, Vishwanath. Nice meeting you. Welcome to the boss.
Thank you, Savan, for nice to be here and great to be in the set of audience where I can talk about the enterprise journey of AI and otherwise as well, in terms of the product, how the product journey has been, and how enterprises use the product management as a skill.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Glad to be here. You have spent a really more than decades time into SAP and the HP and the Edgeworth, and now you are in a Informatica, right?
Yeah.
Also, you studied from IIM in Bangalore, right? So, in short, can you just put some glimpse on how your journey till now, what your roles and responsibility in different companies, right? And what is a driving factor to join IIM Bangalore?
That's a good one. So I am an engineer, right? So I graduated with computer science engineering.
Okay.
From Bangalore University, and then I joined out of campus in a company which is mostly focusing on the real-time operating system or embedded devices and all that. It's called Mistral, right? Which is more of all the VX works. I'm sure it feels like alien, right? So, but the things around what goes into the systems and how do we build it and all that, right? So it was really good experience. And then I moved to HP, which is where I started to see the real enterprise world, right? And HP is a behemoth, right? So then it was not the HP of today. It had the server, storage, ink, printers, everything built into it. Right. So it was a great experience to be joining the team. And while I was working there, I was very interested in the way the products are actually managed. I mean, we used to have product managers visiting us from the US and talking about the go-to-market, the financials, like we are speaking about. I mean, the P&L,
Yes.
right? And I was very fascinated in terms of how can one person be able to handle the entire gamut of activities that are needed for taking the product from the inception into the enterprise journey.
Correct.
And then I was really fascinated. That's when I started to look at, hey, maybe I should do a management degree and focus on strategy and marketing, which is IIM Bangalore. right? Coming back to your question on how the journey has been very, very fulfilling. I saw the real product owner, right? It was more of an inbound product management role.
Correct. Yes, yes, absolutely.
Right? Yeah, it was helping the company to build the product, be the face of the customer, and we built. That's the first organization where I built a new product,
Okay.
which we launched into the market. That's a predictive analytics product.
Oh,
right.
nice.
So that was in 2000, I think 11, right? And then from there I moved to Informatica, which is where I saw the real product management skills being used. I mean, it's a gamut of activities, whether it is, you build a business case, you take it to the CPO for approval, build it, and then take it, go to market, and then operationalize it. So, and in between, I also had a stint at Infosys, which is where I saw the world of, vertical product, right?
Okay.
If you look at my role there, it's mostly horizontal.
Yes.
Right. So it's all basically the enterprise products, data management products. But in Infosys, I got a stint of vertical, right, which is where I was actually the product manager for the entire core banking solution.
Okay.
Of Informatica, of Infosys Pinnacle. Yeah. And that was a very good experience. I mean, we got to experience and talk to CIOs of Indian companies like ICICI Bank,
yes,
SBIs, and many other what we call as emerging markets. Right. So it was a great experience, and that was the time when this whole fintech evolution was evolving. Right. So like the UPI had just come. And and Bitcoin was getting introduced, and those kind of things were in the mix at that point of time. Yeah, it's a, like I said, it's a fulfilling journey so far, and still very excited currently about what we are building at Informatica for GenAI, and the thing which keeps me up in the night is the agentic data management now.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. We will speak more about it, but it's been a good journey so far in the enterprise data management space.
Thank you so much for detailed answer, Vishwa. It's really good to understand. I literally visualize everything, whatever you've done till now. So that give me a good background to talk more on that. So now, as you mentioned, right, nowadays the real driving factor for many of the people is the AI. Yeah. And the evolution of the AI in terms of Gen AI or agentic AI and the further, right? So let's try to break down that, right? And then we'll deep dive more into that, right? So very first thing is with respect to artificial intelligence. If I want to say foundation of the all large language model available, right? That was the transformers.
Yes.
On the early days, right? Yeah. From there, it started with GPT and the BERT, right? Considered as a breakthrough in the AI when it first time it launched to the market. Yeah. And then people were amazed with the result because till the time people will never ever seen the full-fledged text generator model, right? Correct. In the market. So what's your thought on that?
It's an interesting point because till the transformer systems or BERT or GPT came into picture, or even any generative AI solutions came into picture, right? Or models coming into picture. AI was limited to the enterprises or the companies where people used to use it for data science, used to build ML models. Whether it used to be, people used to look at those people with awe. Right? Yeah. Oh, you are building a neural network model, building classification, regression. I mean, those terms were so out of common man's reach, right? Correct. So that's and then GPT and the transformer systems completely changed it and made it like a democratized,
more reachable
to the common man, right? So that's where you see today. I came by metro, right? So and people were actually, I was just listening. I keep listening to the conversation of young adults, right? So all they speak about is, hey, ChatGPT told me this. And it's amazing how it has gotten into daily lives of human beings, right? And which was unimaginable like 3 years.
Absolutely, yes,
and people were never used to talk about, hey, classification regression in any conversation, right? Now people say that, hey, it says two things. One is it is becoming so democratized that everyone can access it, and the second is it is helpful.
Yes.
Right? It is helpful in terms of solving their day-to-day lives. I mean, some people, I keep reading about it. Some people use it as a therapist.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Some people use it as a mentor.
Yes.
Right? So it is helping common man's lives, and hence it has gained a lot of traction. Right? Absolutely. So that's on the B2C space.
Correct.
If you come to B2B, right, I think you also probably hinted at the B2B side as well. Yes. That is true as well. I mean, in earlier versions, data scientists were sitting at the corner of the room. They were working on something. They used to throw it over the wall to data engineers. Correct. Who used to implement that in the pipeline and say, hey, now it is, AI ready. Right? Correct. So now, actually, from everyone now can use AI for content generation. Right? It's not just use it for a rule-based system. Right? So now you can build something with AI, which could be your document, it could be your PowerPoint presentation, or anything, even probably generating a SQL that you're going to execute on your data warehouse. So it has transformed the journey, both from the B2C or the general public perspective as well as the enterprise perspective. Yeah.
But Vishwa, do you think you gave the very right example, the data scientist to the data engineer, right?
Yeah.
And now the more reach is there, right? So do you think that nowadays every single human being, irrespective it's working on the enterprise or just casual, all the people, right? All the laymen, right?
Yeah.
Now everyone is somehow using it. So does it change the thought process of the person also in a day-to-day basis?
When you say change the thought process of the person, because one, I mean, it absolutely is.
Correct.
Right? So there are two aspects that I see. One is changes the thought process of the person from the day to day. How is it going to help them?
Correct.
Help them in terms of their daily work. Right? So see, I'll give you my own example. Right? So earlier I used to spend days together to do competitive analysis.
Yes.
Right? And then put this in the right set of
Excel.
PPTs, and then convert it, etc. So today I can just go and ask Perplexity, um, okay, tell me, I mean, look at these 5 competitors, provide me an analysis, and compare and contrast. It's all going to happen in a flash, right?
Correct,
so that
correct.
the efficiency that is provided, right?
Correct.
And the second is the information asymmetry.
Absolutely.
That used to exist, right, within the enterprises. Right? So now everyone, I mean, I'm talking about, of course, it's in the general public. Information asymmetry can be solved through ChatGPT. I think one of the points that we were discussing is how, how less we talk about the enterprises when it comes to this. So even in the enterprises now, they have started to provide ChatGPT or GPT kind of solutions for the knowledge management. Yes. Right? So that has reduced the knowledge gap and asymmetry completely, and that is bringing everyone to the same level.
Yes,
in any conversation, which is really helpful.
Correct. Absolutely right.
Yeah.
So
I hope I answered your question.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Even with the same context, see, I have even seen that the way you mentioned. Even there are the standard specs, right?
Yeah.
For developing your product. Earlier days, you have to spend maybe 1 week, 2 week to read just a couple of basic concepts to figure out the right way to implement the all flows or a design or something, right?
Right.
Nowadays, it will take just a couple of minutes, right?
Yeah.
You can read tons of data
Yeah.
in a quick go, and you can leverage all the information. So definitely, the speed of working is increasing somewhere somehow,
Yeah.
right? For
Right.
everyone's life, yeah.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so now moving from that, the modern evolution of the models, right? We have seen a lot of categories, right? In terms of text generation model, in terms of reasoning model, in terms of a representation model, right? Or maybe text to text, or lots of more models are available nowadays, right? So, and especially nowadays, even a couple of new generation model is coming. For example, O3, right? earlier people were facing there are some token limits, or I'm not happy with this model, or nowadays they're coming with a big size of a token size, right?
Yeah.
And even companies like Meta is even claiming that they're going to come up with a model where there is no limit is required, right? It's absolutely whatever you want to do, you can do it, right?
Correct.
So in this evolution journey, or especially think this way, like earlier there are set of limited model. Now we have a lot of possibilities as well. Couple of model coming with an infinite limit, right?
Yeah.
So what that will going to change in a enterprise or day-to-day people's life?
In enterprises, see, enterprises, I would actually answer it in two ways. One is on the B2C, I mean, the real life.
Yeah.
It is going to change things enormously. Sometimes I tend to, I actually worry, right? So what happens is that when you use more AI, I usually draw this parallels with people, right? When you use Google Maps, you switch off your mind, right? Because two minds working will always conflict, right? And the second is that if I give the same analogy to AI, right? So people look at AI, and at some point of time, I mean, it's really helpful, like the way you are saying, right? But in some ways, people are losing the creativity.
That
right?
is correct. That is
So
correct.
it is basically you are not probably thinking through, right? You know that there is someone who can answer the question for you,
Correct.
right? So that has reduced uh, out of the box thinking skills. I mean, it's too early days. I really don't know. It's my hypothesis, but it is likely to we will see the real impact of it in probably 5 years on the. I mean, I talked to my son, right? He says ChatGPT told this, right? I told him, hey, have you done the research, or is it because of ChatGPT telling you? I kind of forced him to look at more content and build a holistic approach. So
Correct.
that's happening on the general public side, right? On the enterprises, though, there is a and you asked the question saying how it is, how making these models free is going to help. It is immensely going to help, but there are some drawbacks as well, which we'll probably come to in the next few questions, right? So we are planning, but the in the enterprises, though, right? I see it as it's a mix, right? Um, it is it is generically helped, right? And because see, many of the big enterprises have already contracts with OpenAI or Anthropic and Gemini and all that, right? So the cost angle plays very little, right? But they are more worried about security, what people ask, can I mean, how in fact, I was on a call with a customer a couple of weeks back. They said, can you provide for your GPT product, can you provide one layer of web plugin where I can screen questions that the people are asking?
Oh, okay.
Right. So, I mean, these are coming from big financial institutions, of course, for all the privacy reasons. Privacy reasons. So they understand how much it can help them in their day-to-day work, but they are also wary.
Yes.
Right. So that is the other angle which is being perceived from the enterprises. Of course, the evolution of models will really help them to take it to the next level with agentic data management and all that, right? But everyone is also worried about what is the cost that I'm paying.
Correct.
For this, not just the material cost, but also the privacy and the security. Yeah, indirectly. Yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm having one follow-up question on that. So you rightly pointed that nowadays this these models or these tools are working as a more effective assistant. So people losing the patience and even don't bother much about accuracy or the correction or the validation of the answer, right? So in that case, do you think that going forward, at least one has original thinking and effective, effective information, or maybe you can say lens of identify the effective information is must for the key people at least, not for the generic people. Because until and unless you don't have original thinking or creative or some R&D or some validation of what information you are getting from the tools, right?
Yeah.
You will ultimately give all the control to the tools. You are not at all giving a thought on that, right?
Yeah.
So do you think on that?
It's good that you actually brought it up, right? So uh, when I speak to the PMs who join the team, right? So I tell them, okay, in the world of AI, I ask them, hey, what is your role as a product manager?
Okay.
Right? So and I get varied number of answers, right? So from hey, someone who can say I can learn, and then someone who can say I will assist the agentic AI system.
Correct.
Right? But answer lies somewhere in between. As you mentioned, right? So there is a the answer. I mean, the skills that are going to be needed from a critical thinking role perspective, right? Is one is the validation of AI, right? So as you rightly pointed out, the accuracy, because see, there is a whether we like it or not, hallucination is still a problem.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you don't know, because I keep the analogy of you're talking to a teenager, right? So they will throw a lot of information at you, right, which you probably don't know, but they will sneak in that 5% hallucinated content.
Correct.
Right? And you have to identify what that 5% is in the overall scheme of things. Right? How can that come? That can come through the one is you are feeding the validation framework. We call that as evaluation framework in the context of product managers, right? So you provide, hey, this type of prompt, this is the expected answer, and this is how it is. So I see that's one, and the validation skills, and the second is like the way you mentioned, ability to think through and not just rely on what it is provided, right? So what it has provided, it's what it has at its disposal. Right? And that's what I was touching upon in the previous question. It can provide you with what it has, right? It can never provide you with what it doesn't have, what you don't have.
Correct.
Right? So what you don't have is the charter of the human beings. Right? And I think that thing is something very, very important for all of us to understand, because if you rely on AI for doing everything, probably it will do a lot of work that you do on a day-to-day basis. Probably think of it as it is freeing up space for you to do something more.
Correct.
Right? So that's how I see it as, right? So think of how you can improve beyond and above what AI can do, right? So and I think that's going to be the key for humans in the next generation. I mean, human in the loop for the validation, of course, right? And the second is taking that one notch above for the for what humans are for, which is for innovation.
So keeping the human flag up.
Yeah,
always.
of course. Yeah, right. So and we probably will have to do it in 5 years.
Absolutely, you're absolutely right. Yeah, correct. So now, coming to the very important thing, since we talk about the model and then we talk about the architect, right? Now, next thing is always when people, see the evolution of the AI, the key point discuss is always about the reinforcement, right? Reinforcement learning is ultimately shaping the complete ecosystem of AI, right? So from that angle, how has reinforcement learning, shaping the real world application into the enterprise? From your angle, what exactly you can see on that?
That's an interesting question, because RLHF, as we call it, right? So reinforced learning with human feedback,
absolutely,
is a great tool for relearning.
yes.
Right? But let's take a step back, right? Where does reinforced learning came from? Right? So if you go back to the world of robotics or humanoids, right? So how did humanoids and robots adjust it? One is based on the human, who's working on it, coding information into it. Second is how they are able to adjust to the outside world, right? So if the humanoid is walking, it found a road hump, right? It needs to learn how to cross the thumb, literally.
Correct.
Right? So and that is what we call as environmental factors, right? So and you extend that to I mean, the robots actually, humanoids also learned with the help of one is human feedback, the reinforced learning, and the other is the environmental factors,
Yes.
and learning from mistakes, right? So that is how it actually they evolved over time, right? So now I saw AI competitions, right? So the humanoid competitions.
Yes.
I feel in the next probably 10 years you will have an Olympics for humanoids, right? So where the robots will probably run 100 meters and you will figure out who is the fastest, right?
Yes.
Probably which is so it's the same way. I mean, now coming to the AI systems, which are more ready for enterprise use cases, not the humanoids that I'm talking about. There are two or three angles, right? So they always need to be grounded in the enterprise context, right? So what I mean by grounded, right? So when AI is let loose, it can go and get the information from everywhere, and they give you the like the way you said, right? So in the open world, it has the data about everything. But when it comes to enterprises, you need to say that, hey, your scope is this, right? Here is your metadata scope, right? Or data scope, or this is your learning scope, right? So the grounding actually plays a big role in the way enterprise AI systems will actually behave. Earlier, we used to call these as RAG systems.
Yeah.
So I mean, it seems so alien now, right? I mean, it feels like 2024 we are talking about RAG, and no one speaks about RAG. But they are being used as indices and many basically as a way to ground the responses to the enterprise. And the second is human in the loop.
Correct.
So human will always provide the feedback that they that it helps. So I'm drawing parallels from the humanoids into the AI world, where you need to adjust to the environment first.
Yes.
And you need to learn from your mistakes. In the case of humanoids, the learning from mistakes happens on the ground, literally.
Yes.
But here, you would be through the human feedback. Right? So RLHF, or reinforced learning, is a great method for how AI systems can learn both from the environment as well as from the human feedback.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Now, I think, yes, as you very well said on the reinforcement, and based on that, I think all the new generation models which is coming gives more accuracy.
Correct.
And as well, I would say the information is more structured in the manner, right? So that is definitely required. And if I'm not wrong, but till now, whatever I studied, I understand the reinforcement is something in the AI ecosystem is a most fast-pacing thing going on, right? Because most of the thing people always want to use as a reinforcement and get the better and better result, right?
Correct.
The companies like OpenAI, Gemini, Meta, give you just your different models, right? Everyone will take the piece of their industry, their area, their environment to work. Their actual reinforcement comes in a bit, right? So that is absolutely there.
Yeah, and just to tell you how much it has evolved over time, like the point that you mentioned, right? In 2023, when OpenAI came out with the Chat GPT, right?
Yes.
And then their models, this is, I think, GPT-3 or something.
Correct.
Right? So then you had to train all the models for your enterprises. Right?
Correct.
And we took that approach as well in the enterprises, right? So we never felt that these models are not suitable for your use cases.
Correct.
25, I see base models are actually much better.
correct.
Like the way you said, O3.
Yes.
The planner and reasoner module of O3 is fantastic, right? So it tells you, it thinks, I don't know whether you have seen the Perplexity's Comet.
Yes, I have.
Right?
Yes.
So it is so good as an operator, right? And it can plan activities on the tool on the left hand side, and it can force you. I mean, you can use it as an evaluation tool. So I think it has amount of evolution happening on the on these the base models has helped enterprises, I'll tell you why enterprises like it more, because they don't have to invest time and resources now to train these models.
Absolutely. That's a big segment.
Big. I mean, the total cost of ownership of delivering an AI solution has dramatically come down.
Correct.
I mean, both from the cost perspective as well as TCO perspective, right? So,
but Vishwa, in that case, so you are absolutely right. Earlier days, people put a lot of investment or the efforts to train the model. Now that part is sorted, right?
Correct.
But at the same time, if we definitely will touch upon more, but if you see earlier normal LLM based AI solution, right? Or nowadays we see in between we see the GenAI based solution. Now we see the Agentic AI based solution. At the same time, the solution, uh, the solution complete system, right, providing a different solution, enterprise solution, is also evolving much, right? So somewhere somehow, definitely we are resolving training or maybe I would say repetitive process, but at the same time, creating more and more solution is increasing, right? Correct. And that's where that effort would always be there into the enterprise, right? It's more challenged to different way.
I agree, and you absolutely hit the nail on the head. So one is today. Earlier, people used to spend time, training the models.
Correct.
Now, what they do is they build agents.
Absolutely.
So there is, you name it, we have it, right? So I think earlier we were talking about, I mean, how agents have been the name of the or the buzzword now.
Yes.
Everyone, I mean, now if you're not talking about agents, you probably are missing something in right? So FOMO.
Correct.
So it's happening, and you're right. I mean, see, the AI budgets are only been increasing within the enterprises.
Yes,
It's going down. Right? So now people are finding, you know, agents which are building for the use cases, which is what I feel provides more value for the enterprises, because you train the model. Earlier, you used to train the model, which is more of a groundwork.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So now you are actually solving a use case, which is like a customer service representative's agent.
Correct.
Right. Which will help in the answering customer, solve an end-to-end use case. I mean, I'm sure you would have seen Salesforce.
Yes.
The thing, right? So which does every part of the activity that the humans need to do. But this is providing enormous value to the enterprises, even though their budgets have remained constant or going up. They are focusing more on the use cases. Earlier, they used to focus more on the training of the models and delivering the solution.
So you point out very right on the use case part. So I'm just giving one example or sharing my thoughts on that. So Google launched one public page where they talk about the first 101 use cases of the agentic AI by the time frame of March 25. Okay, March or April, somewhere early, late March or something. And you won't believe those 101 use cases were super fascinating for so many people. People take the example or some information to build something nearby to that and all, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about March end, let's say. Okay. And even if you open, then the URL itself has the word 101.
Yeah.
So for 101 use cases they launched. Okay. Within the span of only 2 months, they touch upon each and every industry. You take example of a telecom industry, you take example of the banking industry, you take any example, right? Logistic or someone. For each and every industry, they are building agents and they are giving the examples, right? Yeah. And you won't believe it just happened in a 2 month. They are having 601 plus use cases available on the same URL.
Yeah.
So now you can imagine at the speed of the evolution, right? Every industry can leverage the agentic AI framework and implement into their category. And there are tons of possibility one can tap on. Right?
Very true.
So the use cases are evolving so fast within the span of 2 months. Each industry's use case is available, right?
Yeah.
So the evolution is going super fast. We were just talking about AI in end of 23 or 23 somewhere. Then all of a sudden Gen AI comes in the picture, and now Agentic AI. What right?
Yeah.
That is very long.
You can only guess what the future would be.
Absolutely,
You're right. I mean, the evolution of the use cases is the one which is keeping everyone on the tenterhooks.
Yes.
Right? And everyone wants to be not left out. Like the way I said, FOMO, right? If my competition is going to, show the bottom line by automating some of their processes using generative AI or the agentic flow, how can I miss out?
That's
right?
correct.
And because they're going to be your stock is going to be punished.
Absolutely, yes,
right?
yes.
If you're not talking about AI in your earnings call, you would hit it, right? So that's exactly how I see it too.
See, that's very rightly said. See, people want to definitely invest into AI evolution, but at the same time, everything will be measured by the returns. What reasons return it will going to give us, right? In terms of results, in terms of maybe sales, or in terms of P&L sheet, or in terms of the how you're increasing your footprint to the global market, right?
Yeah.
So based on that, only things will be measured, right?
Yeah.
So now, with respect to that, one of the important questions that I think everyone would like to understand more in the detail, that uh, evolution is a continuous process, right? And every evolution has a pros and cons. And with we talk about pros too much, use case and everything, right? Now let's talk about a couple of cons. That's the risk part of the evolution. So when we talk about artificial intelligence or a generative AI, so what are the key risks you can see? And one of them, we already see the hallucination, right?
Yeah.
Similarly, some biases would be there, some misunderstanding would be there, right? So how exactly you see as a risk into that?
I think you absolutely right. Hallucination we spoke about.
Yes.
Right? So 5% content is hallucinated. You don't know which one is right. So take a wild guess in terms of what is hallucinated here. Right? So that's the biggest risk, I would say. Right. And where is hallucination coming in is because, like the way we said, it's not, especially in the enterprises, right? It is not grounded to your boundary guardrails that you have established within the organization, right? So AI models, they don't want to say no, okay, right? They want to say yes, right? So when they can't find an answer, they hallucinate and tell you something which is available in the open, outside world, right? So that's one of the problems. The second is, like the way you said, bias. Where is bias creeping in? Is because of the model on which, data on which is trained on, right? So garbage in is garbage out.
Yes.
Right. So that is where it's important that, especially in the enterprises, you provide good, trustable data to AI so that it can provide, it can reduce the bias in the system, right? So that's the second one, right? And the third, I think we are seeing more and more of third as well, is how it is, helping, or in some ways, right? So the humans, right? And we see humans are actually becoming a blocker in some enterprises, right? So they feel, hey, is it going to replace me? Right. So that is actually slowly started to creep in. But it's too early days, right? That's the third risk area, which is more of outside the AI's context, more of a human AI interaction side. Hallucination, what we talk about as bias, and human AI interaction, and finally the security. Right?
Yes,
so the
correct.
data security. What is enterprises are paranoid about it, right? So I'll tell you an example of. I spoke to a big bank, I think a few months back, in the US. They said, in fact, every organization is coming up with AI governance councils.
Yes,
right?
correct.
And which is talking about how AI can be used within the organization, what data can be used for training, and all, right? So they now require written commitment from us that we are not using their data for or metadata for training their models, right? So that is, so the security, data security, right, is the biggest risk in the enterprise world. right? Of course, hallucination can be easily grounded to the enterprise metadata, and then trusted data can be given to reduce the bias. But security of AI of solution is the critical aspect.
But here, just one more follow-up question on that. See, one way is that we can work on the reducing the hallucination, right? That's a one way. Another one way is where I can see more risk is that nowadays we want to build the agents or agents of agents,
Correct.
right?
Correct.
And since the agentic AI is evolving, all the critical decisions we are implementing into the agents, right?
Correct.
It's not just only the automation or a workflow.
Correct. Yeah.
It's an agent. It can think, right?
Can think, yes.
And now imagine agents are talking to agents or agents, or it's a hierarchy, and there is a chance of hallucination, right? Yeah. That is a super risky.
Which is I think I forgot to mention that one, right? Human in the loop becomes very
important. That's the only
So
way. Yeah.
in fact, even when we are building agentic systems, we are always erring on the side of caution, right? So which is, you're absolutely right. I mean, like a O3 planner can solve a complex automation task, or even the business task, business goal, actually not even task, it's a goal, right? So agents are focused more on the goals rather than the traditional GenAI systems, which are more task oriented. Yes. So now, as you rightly mentioned, a goal can involve calling 5 agents and 3 tool calls, right? And that could result in some actions being taken on your enterprise systems, like in your CRM. A mail can go out from you to your customer saying, hey, your order is placed, when there is no order that is needed from the customer, right? Yeah. So that is where it's important that you keep human in the loop for every critical action, and which is becoming a key in any agentic system, right? So,
that is absolutely irreplaceable as well.
Irreplaceable. Yes.
And even it should not be irreplaceable, because that couple of critical decisions you can't rely until and unless there is some biases available in a day-to-day life.
Absolutely. I mean, human in the loop is probably is going to be here to stay for the next 5 years, at least 5 years.
Okay.
Right? Till the accurate, you feel, see, you can go to, I mean, I have seen tools like cursor.ai. I'm sure you would have seen.
Yes.
Builds a code, right? How comfortable are you to put it into a production?
No. You require some people.
You require someone to validate it, right? Yes. So I mean, okay, it says that, hey, I did this. It says, hey, you fix the integration problems. It will probably fix it for you, but how will you ensure that it is ready for consumption or productionization into your? That is where the human comes in, and that role is becoming very, very critical, right? I feel, I think you answered that, you asked that question, right? So saying, how will humans add to AI the validator?
Yes.
Right? Validator and those roles, like fixing the AI code by humans, becomes one of the critical developer asks going forward.
Okay.
Right? At least for the next 5 years. Of course, they will evolve over time, and they will probably make lesser and lesser mistakes, and you trust the system more. But until you trust it, that becomes a.
And it will take at least a couple of years.
It will take at least 2 to 3 years. I mean, if not 5.
Yeah. Correct. Okay. So now, see, we already see the differences from the agentic AI as well to the standard generative AI, right?
Yeah.
But in terms of autonomy and the reasoning, right? What key things you can differentiate between these two?
One is the way we talked about the planning, and see, traditional. I'll tell you the traditional GPT like system, right? So it was okay. You provide a question, it provides you an answer.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a one straightforward.
It's more like natural language solution. Right? So you ask a question, you get an answer, and then it probably is aware of the context a little, right? So the first is the way you said, the planning and the reasoning aspect, right, comes in. The second is context awareness. So it knows what you're being asking, what your preferences are, how are you behaving with it over time. It knows that whether you like the concise responses or the long responses, or it knows whether you are a data engineer or a data scientist or that, right? So the planning and reasoning is one, context awareness is the other, and involving humans. For where there is ambiguity, agentic systems can involve humans. Whereas in case of a traditional chat GPT, it is more of a question and answer. There was human always were in the loop, right? Given that it is more autonomous in the case of agents, so these becomes very critical. One is human in the loop. The second is the ability to be context aware, because you don't want humans to tell you that, hey, I need concise responses every time, right? And the second is what questions you have been asking in the past. How does it play? And the third is, like the way I said, planning and reasoning. Correct. Right? Planning and reasoning, which could involve multi-agent orchestration. Right? Sometimes the planner can call multiple agents. I mean, we ourselves were surprised when we are building the agentic system. Agents, as long as it knows the skills of the other agents, the planner can actually call multiple agents. Correct. in a flow. Sometimes it's like a sequential flow, sometimes it's parallel. Right? So that is how I see those are the three biggest advancements in agentic AI. And along with the other thing, that it's more goal driven than the task driven of the agentic system.
Okay, so now if we move towards the Clear.ai, so Clear AI, right? So there, I think many people would not know about it, but from the enterprise point of view, so can you just explain what is a Clear AI in a general, in a real time example, one can easily understand?
Yeah, no, I think Clear, as you see, is our AI engine, right? So you see, if you look at Clear, AI is at the center.
Yes.
CLAIRE, right? So AI is in the center. I mean, that's how we came up with that word, right? So AI is the center of what we do as part of our data management cloud. We call our solution as Informatica Intelligent Data Management Cloud, IDMC, right? Which is essentially is our cloud-based cloud offering for data management, right? And then Claire is the metadata and AI intelligence engine, for the entire IDMC solution. So it provides not just provides the AI capabilities as a GPT based solution. It also embeds AI into respective solution, whether it is in the role of data engineer within data integration solution, as a data steward within the data quality for fixing your data quality challenges, and then in the master data management solution for mastering your records, or even in the governance where you are building the metadata layer, the governance layer, and all that. So it provides the holistic framework for embedding AI into the applications that we provide from a data management perspective, and on top of it, it also provides an entry point for IDMC, right? It with reduced learning curve, right? So which is what we have found. I mean, it reduces the learning curve for many users, right? So it helps. You can start with your data management task without having to worry about, hey, which solution should I go? What question should I ask? You can start everything from Claire and then go into the individual solutions.
Okay. Yeah. So Vishwa, it is not a traditional AI/ML. Yeah. So it's specific to the data management, right? So now, just one question as a leader, I want to understand from you is that does enterprise should have their own similar AI framework-based system available, which can be leveraged by from the junior level engineer to the leaders to the higher leader, top management, till C-level people. Should enterprise have such solution which can help them? And if yes, then how?
It's an interesting. It's always the answer is always yes, right? But let's look at how that could be done. One is just like providing a chat GPT kind of system for within the enterprise, which I think all organizations have done, right? The second and the most important thing is now how do you kind of help them in their daily routine, right? Yeah. So whether it is data engineer, okay, a co-pilot comes in and helps them. Hey, you're trying to build a pipeline for this. How can I help you? Right? I mean, in terms of, hey, here is the template that I have created. Right? In case of a data scientist, you are doing the feature analysis on this. Here are the some insights into the data that you have been
Correct.
You've been looking at. These probably three columns in your data seems most relevant for your outcome, right? So that's how it's helping. The third is for the C-level executives. Right? It's more of a insights on the reports, or they get these daily reports. Instead of going through everything, it's like a summarization on top of it, which was helping them to understand what are the key insights that the report is providing, what actions can they take based on that, what are the subsequent downstream impact of such actions would be. Basically, those are some of the ways in which the enterprises are looking at adopting AI for all the processes.
So I think we can say the starting adoption of the AI should be at within the organization first, rather than working for the customer first.
Correct.
Right? Where at least we can have a bifurcation at each level, from the junior level, from the engineering side, from the sales and marketing side, or the product team, right? Or on the top management. Each has their own requirement.
Correct.
On the day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
That should be, autonomous first.
Yeah.
With the agents or with some framework to be used, and then further in terms of product, we can leverage the AI frameworks.
Correct.
Which is available.
And sometimes it happens in parallel as well.
Correct.
Right. So, like for example, we call that as Informatica for AI and AI for Informatica.
Wow.
Right.
That's great.
So, which is how we can use AI in our solutions to help our customers. That is, Informatica for AI, right?
Okay.
And then AI for Informatica is how are we going to leverage AI within Informatica for solving our problems, like the way you said. I mean, helping our users within the enterprise. So those two become. It's like a you can look at it as a spear. Half of it is how you going to provide that capability to the to your customers while inheriting those technologies within your enterprise. Yeah.
Correct. Okay, so now let's move to the another section. Let's talk about AI into the data management. Right?
Yeah.
And if you have managed mass injections, replications, streaming on the IoT side as well. Right?
Yeah.
So what's the hardest challenge in the enterprise we have faced while evolving in each and every aspect?
It's there are two or three areas where I feel it's the hardest. Right? So one is the connectivity.
Okay.
To the system, especially when you go to the industrial IoT.
Yes.
Right? There is something called as IT versus OT, right? Or IT OT. So which is essentially information technology versus operational
technology. Yeah.
Right? Operational technology is where basically you are SCADA systems and oil rigs where you have the data. So see, now for AI you would require all the data in. So
Yes.
like we spoke about, you have to feed in data for it to provide those meaningful recommendations and meaningful actions on the data. So you need to pull all data in, right? So how do you pull all data in? Is through building connectors to those systems.
Correct.
Right? So that's the biggest problem that the enterprises face, because I need to pull data in, and it is not simple. And IT and OT don't work well together, and all that challenge, right? So that's the first one. The second is the continuous nature of it, right? So what we call as replication.
Yes.
Which is you have data in your one place, and you need in real time the data needs to flow from transactional system into your which is essentially your data warehouse.
Correct.
Right? So that what is happening, like for example, a fraud alert happens right? On you get fraud alerts from the banks, right? How does that happen? Real time from your banking system, the data moves into your a warehouse or something, and then it gets quickly actioned on, and then you get an SMS alert, right, saying, hey, I see a potential fraud transaction. So the real time replication of data from the the what we call as transaction, it is called OLTP. I don't know whether you have heard of that, online transaction processing to OLAP, which is analytical processing, right? So that seems like an old concept now, but the replication of data from here to is the biggest challenge. The third is, of course, the operationalization, right? Like the way I said, which is how you you take actions on the real time events.
Okay.
Right. Sometimes you need to take actions on individual event, like the fraud. Right. Sometimes, in the predictive maintenance world, in the manufacturing industry, you don't take actions on one single event. You say, over the last 30 minutes, my temperature of my sensors, average temperature of my sensors was more than 40 degrees or 50 degrees, right? So you don't take action on one. So operation, I mean, you do something downstream to make it effective, right? So basically, you trigger something, you probably fire alarm has gone off if temperature is down for 30 minutes. So there are some, you need to have systems which can take actions based on either a single event or multiple events which are aggregated together, and then a concise decision is taken. So those are the three big areas where the enterprise really struggle in the area of IoT. And
do you see that two areas definitely AI definitely can help into the ingestion or into the replication? When IT and OT comes, when actual ground level elements are involved, right? Do you think AI is a bottleneck to that? Because most of the time there are software involved with who talk to the AI, who talk to the models, who take the decisions, right?
Yeah.
When hardware or the sensors are involved, I think it is still far away to evolve the AI into that.
It is. I mean, I wouldn't call far away, but it's little further away. Right?
Okay.
Because see, every system, if you go to probably the sensor vendor, they are also embedding AI into it.
Yeah.
I mean, whether you like it or not, I mean, sometimes they call even the rule-based systems as AI, right? So that's the abuse of AI which is happening. But so I feel that is the next level of problems that the enterprises will need to solve, because see, AI needs more data, like the way we say, right? So and everyone now sees that, hey, I can actually build pipelines using AI. So, but where is the data?
Correct.
Right. So now the next level of questions, like the way you're saying, OT systems. Okay, I need to fill data from OT systems. So how can you, as an OT vendor, help me with that? Right. So those questions will start going to the OT vendors, and they will improvise. So it's a little further away, not like 3 years down the line. I think it's 1-2 years down the line, if that will happen.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Good. So, Vishwa, so we already talk about the how the enterprise AI work into the data management, right? Now, when we I think from the enterprise point of view, everyone is skeptical about implementing the generative AI to the agentic AI. Both has the different purposes altogether, but at the same time, when we talk about the agentic AI, right? That terminology, can you just glimpse on that? What are the key decisions one should have in a mind while differentiating the Gen AI versus the agentic AI?
Okay, so I would say the three, right? So like the way one is the planner and reasoner part. So let's dive into it, right? So when do you decide whether you need an agentic solution? Right. So see, generative AI system would require some operator sitting and asking those prompts. Prompt engineering was the highest paid job in 2020.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. So I'm sure you would have heard of it, right? So now, agents are taking that role. Right? So now, I think the first thing that you need to identify is the use cases. Right? Okay. Of course, you don't want to just, okay, there is evolution in the market towards agentic, and hence I will build an agentic solution. Right? Yeah. So you identify the top 5 business challenges that you have, or top 3 business challenges that you have, and see if that can be automated. Right. So that's where, the mechanics would come in terms of the planning, reasoning, human in the loop and all that. But that's more of how you make it work, rather than the most important thing is what problems to solve. Right. So I would, we also tell this to our customers, saying, hey, they say that, hey, I need to build an agent. I say, what are the use cases? Can you talk about the use cases? Rather than, there's enormous pressure from the top at the enterprise saying, hey, you need to build agents, right? So, and first identify the use cases. The second is identify the end goal, right? So what parts do you want to automate? What parts do you want human in the loop, right? There are, agents, like the way we talked about, they can completely go anonymous, autonomous, sorry, not anonymous.
Correct.
Autonomous and solve the end-to-end goal. But do you really want that to happen on day one? That's where it's important to establish those guardrails, right? So the agents can stop and ask for human verification or validation of the decisions it has taken, right? So in some scenarios, like, if you are building the document agent for documentation, you probably don't need human in the loop.
Correct. Yeah. Right?
It's just a knowledge management system which is helping your users to become better. You can probably build an agentic system which with no human intervention, right? But let's say you are building a support agent, right, which is helping you, solving and troubleshooting one of the challenges that you have within your solution. How far do you want to go? Do you want it to, create a ticket?
Yeah.
Right. Support ticket for the customer, right? So customer support agent, think of product support agent as a customer support agent who's helping you troubleshooting your problems that you're facing in your software. And if he's not able to solve, does it create a ticket for the human? Right. So I think those are some of the things that the enterprises need to speak about in terms of how much do they want to automate, right? In the initial days. I would say treat it with caution at the beginning. And slowly evolve. Yeah, evolve over time. Like the way I said, err on the side of caution, and slowly move towards more and more autonomous. We call that as an agency spectrum. Right. So agency spectrum means that you start completely from the human and completely for the agent deciding, AI system deciding, and the answer lies somewhere in between, and probably answer lies somewhere closer to the human now, and then it slowly translates into that. So agency spectrum is one of the important aspects that you should be worried about. And the third is outcome, like the way we said, right? So what are the outcomes that you are after? Right? So are you looking at the cost? Are you looking at customer service, customer what do we call it, customer experience? What are the business drivers? Right? So actually it's the other way around. You start with the business drivers. You start with what use cases that you want to solve, and then the third is the agency spectrum. Decide on the agency spectrum. So I would say those are the three important.
This is really great answer and great categorization. One can easily understand.
Yeah.
Okay. So now let's jump into towards leadership role. You spend really good time into that. So let's leverage that information, knowledge, especially into product management. Okay.
Yeah.
So you led across metadata ingestion, the streaming, and now into the AI initiatives as well, right?
Yeah.
So for you, how you decide where I should spend my energy into the innovation part or into the stabilization of part? Because see, every change will not going to come overnight, right? It slowly should be adaptable as well to be stabilized as well, right? But innovation has to be done on a very consistent basis, right? Then only people will get, or enterprises will get more and more edge advantage, right? So in that terms, where exactly you decide in terms of the innovation as well in terms of the stabilization?
It's more of an art than science. right? And the second is it also depends on the life cycle or the life cycle at which your product is, right?
Okay.
So let's say you're building a new product, right? What's your objective is to be adopted by few big customers, so that you can use that as a reference for selling it to others.
Success story.
Success stories, right? So reference story. So what do? You probably bend your backwards to solve that customer use case. You build out an MVP. Build out an MVP. You do the. I'm assuming that you have done all the market research and build out an MVP solution. Now you take it to customer. Of course, it is not going to work as is to the customer, right? So they will ask for some customization. They will ask for the things that you're planning in the roadmap. You will have to accelerate for that customer to solve that, right? And sometimes you will have to bend backwards to get them to up and running, right? While you have a strategy for the product, right? Don't lose sight of that, right? So you don't do something that it is not expected to do, but as long as it is falling into the larger path that you have established for your product, you do it, right? But that's the case of new product, right?
Okay.
And the more mature products, if you are looking at the mature product, right? So the innovation, and then that product crosses the chasm. So I'm sure you would have read about crossing the chasm for a product. Right? So once it crosses the chasm, there are a lot of stabilization that needs to happen in terms of the features, in terms of the use cases and all that, right? So that you need to do. So that's where I said life cycle of the product or makes a key difference in terms of how do you prioritize, right? Okay. In the mature product, it's more of so how do you sustain like milking a cow, right? So so now you know that it's sustainable. So now how do you take it to the next level? Okay. Right? So while you are probably 50% or 60% goes in stabilization, keeping the customers happy, the remaining 30 to 40% in the innovation. So at the beginning, it's almost like a flip, right? 70 goes into innovations and 30 into solving the specific customer problems, and it flips after it crosses the chasm, right? Chasm depends on the company. Some people say 500 customers, some people say 550 million ARR, some people say when your bottom line is like your margins are like 80%. Right? So the chasm depends on the individual organization, but once you cross the chasm, it usually flips, right? And your job as a PM here is more of a product guy, is more of helping customers to reach production and make references. Here you are doing more marketing. You are more in terms of how it helps your larger goals of the organization and how it fits well into the overall strategy of the organization. Yeah, right. So that's how I see it.
So I think you have mentioned about even product categorization as well. So you see, every product manager has, or maybe if I'm talking about the enterprise, portfolio would have always a mixture of a mature product or maybe a couple of really flagship products.
Correct.
Or a couple of other evolving products, right, for the next couple of years. Right? So for that, what do you see if you want to evolve the AI journey into the product? What should be the prioritization based on these three categories? Maybe the flagship product, the mature product, and the evolving product.
So are you saying where do you embed AI into this? Right? It's an interesting question. Of course, in the product. See, I would say the approach that we have taken as well, and many enterprises have taken. If you're building a new product today, take the AI first approach.
Absolutely, that's correct.
No, it doesn't make sense to do the whole 9 yards and then flip it over like a year down the line, right? So, but if you're a very mature product, stable product, which is helping your customers immensely, look at customer use cases and then try to infuse AI into it, right?
Okay.
Like the co-pilot.
Yes, correct.
Right. So customers are already comfortable. So what is your objective? Grow the user base, right? So more and more people are able to use your product, right? So now provide those copilot interfaces which will bring down the learning curve significantly, right? So, and the flagship product is more for the marketing, right? So you say, hey, now it is embedded into this flagship product, so that customers see that in your marketing communications and all that. I mean, I would say that also falls into the second factor, which is infusing AI into the application. When I say copilot, it is not just the natural language copilot. Sometimes you embed into the in context, right? So you're doing some workflow, AI kicks in and says, can I take this over?
As a suggestion.
As a suggestion.
Okay. Okay. So now moving forward from the same point, right? For PM working into the AI ecosystem today, right? As an AI product manager as well, right? So what should they absolutely master as a skill or stay relevant to the fast growing evolution from the product guy point of view?
It's an interesting question. When I took over AI product management in the like 2 years back, right? So I was always asking my, I had come into the role, but there are already PMs who are there, right?
Okay.
How do you provide requirements to an AI system?
Okay.
It was an interesting one because it's not like traditional system where you say that, hey, you define some workflows and it will get done, right? And it is not just from the way it is built, but it's also used, right? So the customers, when you given any generative AI product, right? So their expectation is sky high because they have been using those tools in their day-to-day life, like ChatGPTs or Claude or anything, right? So the I was asking the PMs. I mean, going back to my point, how do you see a AI PM's role? And then we figured out there is a role for the PMs, which is apart from giving these requirements in Jira, like the epics and all that, right? So we have to come up with an evaluation framework. Okay, we call that as eval, right? For every type of prompt that the user provides, like in a business area, you provide each business area that your product is helping automating, right? Help automating. So you say identify the top 50 prompts or the questions that the users ask, and then provide like an expected answer, the minimum answer, what is like a worst case, best case, ideal case, aspirational case, right? So you start defining that for an AI system, and then start rating the answers. Okay. Now there are tools available. In fact, there are a lot of tools available. But your job as a PM is to, for your product line, define that evaluation criteria, right? Earlier, we used to say, hey, QE teams, I mean, the quality assurance team decides, whether the product goes out of the gate or not. Now, I think the answers to these are you hold the line based on your eval framework, right? So your job as a PM, of course, you have to define requirements, you have to, have the conversations with customers to drive the adoption, etc. But the most important inbound activity that you should do is building eval frame for your product, right? So that's critical, and it is going to be very, very important as the AI systems evolve over time.
Okay. And what is the eval framework? Definitely. And do you think that even for the individual PM, right, the same framework would be based on the current evolution of the competitive landscape as well?
Correct.
It should be.
Yeah,
right?
it's of course, it's you brought out a great point. I mean, the competitive evaluation and how your product fits the market research activity, that will continue, right? So and the like the way you mentioned, which is now, let's say one of your competitors is addressing this use case, so if your product is going to address that use case too, I'm not saying that we should address all the use cases that the competition is addressing, but it should the eval framework should fit into those aspects as well, which is absolutely right.
And just one follow up on that only. So see, for product manager as well for the sales guy or a pre-sale guy, the mind is somewhere somehow always they guys are figure out what are the how to expand the footprint of the product, how to tap the white space, as well. What are the key edge if I can provide to the customer who is using my competitive product, then my chances to get it replaced or maybe get it my product is become higher and higher. Now for these three objective, right? Do you think as soon as we get the eval framework on a fine-tuned stage, it will help the enterprise?
It will definitely help them,
right?
So which is, see, the evolution or eval framework, right? So solves three major problems. One is establish a measuring criteria for yourself, right? Which is essentially the gate that I was talking about. I mean, hold the line in terms of product when it goes out. The second is it helps the PM to build the market and the competitive awareness, like the way you mentioned, right? Which is essentially how the product should address those use cases. Okay. So the one is you define, you understand what use cases to solve. The eval framework kind of operationalizes it.
Correct.
Right. And the third is how customers are going to use it. Right. So now you are actually building all these three into the eval framework.
Correct.
Right. So the use cases, how it is going to be built, and the third is how customers are going to use it. Right. So now see, QA, what happens is that QA team tests on something and the customers actually use it on a completely different scenario when it goes out, and it falls flat, right? So now if you're bringing all these things in, you are actually building a holistic framework, which is addressing these at the product building stage itself, rather than once it comes back.
This is
like a left
I would
shift.
say this is something that give you an edge to every PM as well to the enterprise.
Yes, absolutely. Right. So the AI PMs, I feel the criteria for AI measuring AI PMs is going to be how well they come up with the eval framework,
and how strong that framework is.
Right.
So more the stronger or accurate framework, it will give you more competitive edge, right? Okay. Now the last question to is that if you had to bet, what is the single biggest disruptor coming into the enterprise data space? Or you can even say in a generic way, in an enterprise space, what is something is coming which is maybe going to be a disruptor?
I would say agentic is anyway here.
Yes.
Right. Which is essentially helping systems to become autonomous and helping a goal-driven automation fitting into the overall framework. That is here, and it is going to disrupt many enterprises in the next 1 to 2 years. Right. Beyond that, I see AGI. Right. AGI is going to be the key, and you never know. I mean, this evolution is so fast happening, right?
Correct.
And something we think is not going to be possible in the next 2 years might happen in the next 12 months, right? So, I mean, how I'm sure you would have seen lovable.dev, right? They were able to build an agent in. You can ask a question and build agent in few minutes, right? So I see a lot of agents that are getting built that's going to disrupt some of the existing processes, and then slowly the system's moving towards AGI and autonomous learning and without the human feedback, right?
Correct.
So then we humans have to figure out what we have to
do. Also, transformation journey more rather than see when people talk about replacing human,
Yeah.
It would be more transferring the role and the responsibility till now, whatever we are doing, right? So
it is that it's not that it is going to replace humans, right? There will always be humans who will validate, right? And but see, I think you pointed out in one of the questions. So what will humans do, right? So it is that humans. I mean, I see this in my user base, right? So the IT who are the predominant users of my solutions, they say they always struggle. I mean, they cannot even solve 20% of what their business is asking today. Correct. Because of the shortage of bandwidth and various other things, right? So now they are not going to be replaced. They will be able to do with those 10 people, they are able to do 50 people's worth of work.
Correct. Right? That's correct.
Instead of and solve all the or many of the business asks, rather than having to struggle for the resource, right? And in over time, I feel it is the AI is going to aid humans to do more rather than replace them. That's my view, and that's how I see it too, right? So it's just that there's so much work left to be done, and AI is helping the users to serve their users better, whether it is B2C or B2B, right? Yeah. Thank
you so much, Vishwa. Nice meeting you on this podcast. And we covered a lot of things in terms of product, in terms of evolution, in terms of the real use cases, and your own opinions, your thoughts into that. So really, really thank you so much for having you here on the Voice of Visionary.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Savan, for and it is great to have such candid conversation, and I hope I provided some insights into how the enterprise.
Absolutely, yes, absolutely, definitely.
Thank you.
Okay, nice to meet you.